What's going on, guys? It's Uncle Mike. Welcome back. Want to take a minute or two to talk about private business. And I talk about private business from time to time on this channel because that's what I care about. I care about entrepreneurship, private business, human flourishing, wealth creation, and the like. And once in a while, I'll talk about private business, talk about maybe some of the benefits of it or the strong points, virtues, etc. Today, I want to talk about an aspect of private business that I think gets overlooked a lot. And it's one of those things that's right in your face. And essentially, this is really about being an employee. If you're just a person living your life, maybe you want to do a business, maybe you own a business, that's great. You ought to sign up for my email newsletter. It's free. Link is down below. But if you're a person who's just out there working, you're frustrated with your job, maybe you like your job, but you don't really think about the dynamics of private versus public businesses, I just want to share something here with you. This is salient too if you own or want to own a private business, because this is something that you are providing for society that a lot of people, including private business owners, don't often think about. So when you think about values, most people want to be able to live a life that orients around their values. Now, people state their values. Well, I believe in integrity. I believe in honesty, hard work, And so people like to talk about their values. But when you look at how people behave, the things that they do, that often is a way to see what they really value. Some people talk about, investing and saving money and being frugal, but then you see them blowing all kinds of money on things. You go, okay, you say that's your value, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's really your value. But the fact is we have values, whether they're good values, questionable values, bad values, whatever they are, we have values. And most people want to be able to live their life oriented around their values. If you value something, a principle, a characteristic, an attitude, a behavior, an experience, you want your life to reflect those values. This is why we see people going to church. This is why we see people being generous with their money. This is why we see people having families. This is why we see other people going to college. We see people, pursuing certain careers. There are certain values at the under the surface driving that. Okay, fair enough. Well, how does this tie into private business versus publicly traded? So businesses, we go, well, hey, it's a classic mafia comment, it's strictly business.
It's not personal, Sonny. It's strictly business.
We think of businesses as kind of like unpersonal thing. It's different. You got your personal life, you got your family life, et cetera. But then at business, you have your business life and we compartmentalize. And that's different. That doesn't really reflect our personal values. But that's actually not true. And anybody that owns a business, anybody that works in a business knows that there are a lot of personal aspects to business. It's very personal, not just for an owner, but even for employees. Your work, your place of work, the nature of the work you do, the culture that you find yourself in at a business deeply impacts you on a personal level. And even more so if you're an owner. You pour yourself into your business, your hopes, your dreams, your time, your efforts, and you tie yourself materially, emotionally, psychologically, all these things to your business. You shouldn't do that solely. It's not healthy necessarily, but this is what we do. And so business is not strictly, but business is quite personal. It's quite personal. What you see in these businesses, both corporate, giant corporations, publicly traded, small mom and pop, and everything in between, is they are run on a certain set of values. Now, not every corporation lists their values. And a lot of them that list their values, those values are BS. Again, you'll see these, you go into the lobby, you'll see it on their website, teamwork, equality, profitability, customer service. They say all these things. It's like, okay, maybe. Then you look at the organization, you realize they're not necessarily aligned along the things that they say they are. However, you will see that these businesses are aligned along a certain set of values. These values may not be explicitly articulated. They may not be listed. They may actually be in contravention of the values that the company claims to hold. But when you look at the way that the company does things, when you look at its behaviors, when you look at the way that its culture runs, you look at the products and services that it offers, you can start to discern, you can infer what those true values are. And the reason this is important is because every organization has a set of values, as does every human being. And I think often the anxiety, the frustration, the depression that people experience because of their work is a conflict of values. You're coming to work with a certain set of personal values. You don't leave those at the door. And then you're being forced to adopt explicit or implicit values that the company holds and go about your day living out and experiencing the effects of the values of the company that you work for. Okay, fair enough. So what ends up happening is there's a conflict. You're out of integrity. You have a certain set of values. They have another set. Now, sometimes for the fortunate few, and I think this is the opportunity I'm getting at, that you can find a company that has values that, for the most part, align with your values. That's a wonderful thing. Yeah, you're still working. Yeah, you got to get up at 6 a.m. and brush the snow off the pickup truck and drive into the factory. But you're part of a group of people that hold similar values, and you can orient even your work life around the same set of values that you hold as a person. If the company believes in doing good work and treating people fairly and being honest and so on and so forth, that means that's how they're going to treat you as an employee. And they're also going to expect you to behave the same way. And they're going to allow you and want you to do work that reflects those same values. Everybody's happy if you share those values. But what you end up getting with these giant publicly traded corporations is something a little different, a lot different actually, than what you get with small private business. And when I say small, I don't mean tiny. People hear small business, private business, they think, well, that means, a company that's only got 2 employees and they're making $500,000 a year. No, a small business can make 10 million, 30 million, 50 million. Those are considered technically small businesses. When you consider Apple making billions, Google making billions, 50 million, 80 million, 100 million, still a small business, comparatively speaking. But these giant corporations, because they're not owned by an individual or a family or a group of related people from a certain town, they have shareholders and boards and executives and middle management, and there's thousands of people at the top of the structure all having a voice. Well, it's hard to have a certain set of values based on anything deeper than consensus. And how do you get that consensus? Well, typically what these giant corporations do is they look at the popular culture. They look at the government. They look at the things that represent kind of the whole of the society and go, well, what's popular right now? What's acceptable right now? What's expected right now? Those are going to be our values. So right now, diversity and equity and all these things, DEI and all that jazz, big deal. Environmentalism, big deal. So what ends up happening is these giant corporations make these things their primary values. Now, you might be a person that loves that stuff, and then you're golden. If you're just like everybody else in society, I'm not saying you're an NPC, but if you're just like everybody else in society, you carry the popular values of the day, then you're fine. You can find all kinds of opportunities. But if you're someone that says, hey, wait a minute, I'm not sure that I buy into some of this stuff. Some of it I get, I don't believe we should have poisoned water. I don't believe that we should, just wantonly destroy forests. We should preserve things to enjoy and for the health of of humanity and the planet and so on. Okay, great. I'm down with that, but there are other things I just don't necessarily think are right. I don't think we should strip people of their freedom and their liberty, and I don't think government should tell us what to do. All that stuff. You know where Uncle Mike's coming from. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can't go to a giant corporation because you're going to be forced to embrace their value set. And that means not just that you kind of pay homage to the values listed on the wall in the lobby. You're going to have to sign documents. You're going to have to go to re-education classes, sensitivity classes, they call them. You're going to have to participate in celebrations and whole months devoted to things that you, maybe as a Christian or an Orthodox Jew or a Muslim or just a dissenting person, don't want to participate in. And so this is where private business comes in for the win. Because private businesses almost universally, almost always reflect the values of their owners, of their founders, of their owners, the people that operate them. And so what you get is maybe an individual that owns a business, let's say it's a $30 million company. That individual believes in treating people fairly. That individual believes in family. That individual believes in giving back to the community. That individual believes in honesty. That individual believes in high quality products for a fair price. Well, if you think about a business that's oriented around that is just doing all these things so that it can be faithful to its values, can you imagine what it would be like to work at that business? Can you imagine as an employee in the customer service department, in the factory, on the plant floor, in engineering, in the sales department, what your work and job would be like? Can you imagine working with other people that share the same values? If you share those values, you're going to love it there. And the beauty about privately owned business isn't that, there's all these conservative, family-based businesses for us right-wingers. Look, if you're a lefty lunatic, and God love you if you are, but if you're a lefty lunatic, and I know you're out there, you can find privately owned businesses with owners that have lefty lunatic values. Imagine that. There are just private businesses all across society that represent the various attitudes, mores, and perspectives of all the people that make up our society. But when you think about broad strokes, you think about the values that inform giant corporations. These are not entities that have any roots. I mean, they've got a history. There's always someone that starts these companies, but they're so far divorced from these things. These are not a collection of people that intimately involved with one another that hold similar values. These are abstracted, giant, almost like states, these corporate states. Apple's massive. It's global. It's got offices all over the place. It's not just in Cupertino. It's got business units and business interests and investments to trillions of dollars across the globe. Tens of thousands, I don't know how many employees, maybe there's 100,000+ Apple employees easily. I bet you there are across the globe. You see companies like this all the time. They're often going to have values that just kind of carry the popular values of the day. However, if you're looking for a place to work that is closer aligned with who you are, look closer to home. Look for privately owned businesses based in your community. Or look for privately owned businesses that have a larger reach but are based on similar principles. You're often going to find that they align with you, that they believe in you, that they want you to live according to your values, and they want you to bring that to work every day because that's what they believe. And you're going to have a lot more fulfillment, a lot more satisfaction. And this is something that we need in our society. You might not agree with the owner down the road. You might not like his politics. You might not like his views on marriage or money or private property or whatever. But we need to make room for private business owners and their businesses and their employee groups to have some freedom and to build the kind of culture that reflects the values of them, their community, and what's good for our society. So, as you're thinking about private business and its virtues, that's one I think that often goes unspoken. It's not really talked about, but I think it's critical. I'd like to know what you think. So leave me a comment down below. Are you a business owner? If so, do you think your values are important to your business? Have you had a hard time, an easy time finding people that align with you? Or are you not are you just an employee somewhere that is frustrated or happy based on where you're working? Tell me a little bit about your experience. I'd love to hear and learn more. Guys, like I mentioned at the open of this video, I've got a newsletter for entrepreneurs. It talks about business and strategy and marketing and all that great fun stuff. You got to subscribe. Link down below. And as always, remember, Uncle Mike loves you. I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.